Walker's frustration grabs the headlines. Ace Bailey grabs the hearts already. It's Media Day recap next on Locked On Jazz.
You are Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked On Jazz. It's your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Thank you so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all podcasting apps, as well as on YouTube. And to the everydayers, you're the greatest. Love you. Might have something super exciting coming for diehard everydayers coming here a little bit on Locked On. Okay. Media day yesterday, super fun. I'll share a little bit about my experience, but I'll also just give you all the things you want. Super, super fun day for everybody involved there. We're going to break it all down. Got a bunch of notes for you. We will, I'll give you my winners, the two guys that really struck me. I'll give you a ton of notes. Have to talk about Taylor's return. The role of the veterans. I might not get to all of it today, frankly. There's just so much to this. I thought there was a really interesting kind of energy to the team and authenticity we'll talk about as well. But there's no question the two things that everyone walked away talking about. One was the energy, the effervescent, the heartfeltness, the excitement of one Ace Bailey, the youthful exuberance. If you check Twitter, you saw it. But the headline, no question, is Walker Kessler's frustration. And that was his word. I'm frustrated. I love Utah. I'll give everything I got on the court. I'll play winning basketball. But happy, go lucky, carefree, hysterical Walker was not present at Media Day yesterday. The kid who 4 years ago, the way Media Day works for us, it's really cool. It's one of my favorite days. We get there at like 7:30 in the morning, and then we get to do like all the glamour shots that the players do and all the cool things. I don't know if they ever use them, but we get to do them. So it's cool. You're like, I got to take pictures in front of a smoke gun thing. Like I thought I was cool there for a minute. I got to send a picture to my daughter and go, look, I'm cool. And so the first time ever her 55-year-old dad was actually relatively cool for a minute. And so that's like that. We do that. That's your, then starting at probably 8:30, 9 a.m., we sit down with players and they just come through in a cycle and we get 5, 10, 12, 15 minutes with them, depending. And then I wrap the day with 12 minutes one-on-one with Ace at about 4:30, 4:40. So it's long. The reason I mention that, it's great. It's just long. The reason I mention that is because 4 years ago, it's about 4:40. We're dead tired. We're all in a room at the Delta Center, a nice room, but there's no energy left. We've talked to all these kids. We've done it. We had a longer station that time. And Walker Kessler walked in, sat down, and first thing, Craig Bolajak reminded us yesterday, first thing he says is, don't you think I'm handsome? And he has us laughing and joke and literally in stitches for 12 minutes. We had no energy left in the room. He was just so that was not the kid today. The business side of this has had an impact. I can't blame him, right? Let's be honest. You cannot blame him. He had a possibility of signing a life-changing contract for $100 million or so. If we get into just his perspective, because to him, that's the only perspective that matters. He had a great year last year. He led the league in offensive rebounding. He blocked shots. He busted his ass. He stayed well. He played hard after a not very good sophomore, and he was thinking he was going to get rewarded. And probably in his mind, just kind of generally, this is what we do as humans, is we start to project what we expect to happen, which gives us expectations, which most often gives us disappointment. Side note. But he then did have these expectations of what he felt was going to happen on the day and where and how it was going to happen, and it has not happened that way. And now he has to play a season, and he feels, no matter how much Austin and Justin and Will and everyone tells him he's a part of the future, he feels let down, dismissed, whatever you want to call it, frustrated, right? He was very clear that he loves Will, he loves the players. Sometimes what is not said is as important as anything else, and he did not mention the front office. But it's fine. I don't know if it's fine, but it's real. There's no one's acting here in bad faith or lost their mind, or do you have to pick a side or anything of that nature. This is just a massive challenge in his career. His rookie year, he came on by storm. He had a blast. He was this effervescent, that's not the right word. That's the word. He was this energetic, hysterical, bright, funny person. And then he had a down sophomore year where he lost the joy of the game, and he found the joy of the game in his junior year and third year. And now he's got to find the joy of the game again in the midst of business madness. And that's not easy. I'm sure some of you are out there with the comment, well, he's already making okay, that actually doesn't matter. I know you think it does because you and I are not making that. And I'm very fortunate, so I'm not about to have a pity party over here about myself. But it doesn't matter, actually. Every one of us live inside of their own ecosystem in which we exist. And if you make $50,000 and you expected a $75,000 raise and you didn't get it, you'd be pissed. You'd be frustrated. That's where Walker is. And he lives in a world in which that contract is so much your validation. So, yes, he's already making $5 million. Okay, great. They're still real. They're still human. And his reaction is not surprising. He's just got a massive challenge ahead of him now about whether or not he can stay focused. And when it's going to show up is when things go wrong. Right? As Rudyard Kipling wrote, it's super easy when all's going well. But can Walker this year, when things are not going well, when he gets banged around a little bit, when things are not get frustrated that he didn't get the contract that he expected himself to get or that he was hoping he would get? Because, again, the expectations lead to the frustration that we have here. Okay. And not to get into it too much, but truthfully, we have no idea for Walker whether this is good or bad, but it feels bad right now. And that's the reality. So those will be interesting to watch. This is all part of the process. Will Hardy very clearly set a standard on Walker that I need you to be a defensive player that does more than just block shots. So that was the gauntlet that was set. Okay, if you want this and I need you to be a defensive player that doesn't just block shots. I need you to be a defensive player that doesn't anchor the 30th ranked defense in the NBA. How good a defender is Walker? Would Rudy Gobert, a Hall of Fame greatest defensive player probably since Bill Russell and Hakeem Olajuwon, maybe Tim Duncan, would Rudy Gobert ever anchor the 30th ranked defense in the NBA? Okay, that's a Hall of Fame standard. But that's a little bit worse. If you're going to be that great defensively, can we be that great defensively on all plays in a team concept? And that'll be the challenge. And Walker wants to expand his offensive game and play with confidence, jump hook, those kind of things, and show that he has some of that. And it's going to be a little bit of a tug all year long. Walker's not going to forget for one day all year. That's the reality. But that's also the Jazz made the move that they had to make as a front office. This is human stuff. So that's the headline that steals the day. The energy, the personality that stole the day was Ace Bailey. I was fortunate enough to get 12 minutes with Ace Bailey at the end of the media day. I'll share that conversation, what I learned about the Jazz rising star, next on Locked on Jazz. Today's show is brought to you by Murdoch Chevy, located in Woods Cross, also located in Logan. The Chevy trucks, the Americana that is Chevy, and the Murdochs. A perfect combination. If you're looking right now for an SUV, you've got the Suburban, you've got the Tahoe, and then you've got the Trax. On the small end, you've got the Blazer and the Trailblazer and the Equinox. In the middle, it's a great lineup of SUVs, the Chevy trucks. The Colorado is the small zippy one. The Silverado gives you all of the nice luxury of a beautifully powerful truck. It's Chevy, and it's the Murdochs. The Murdochs with over 90 years in Utah, making sure that you have the no regrets experience. All at Murdoch Chevy in Woods Cross and Logan. If you're going to stop by, please email me first at dlock09@gmail.com. That's dlock09@gmail.com so that I can give you the VIP experience you deserve as a Locked On every dayer. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers bet $5 and they get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, then unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel.com to get the app today. My suggestion, but I would never tell you how to do anything on a sportsbook, is find the college game with the largest odds and then do it that way. Major League Baseball gets underway today. The Tigers are a 1.5-point run favorite. Over-unders at 6 against the Guardians. The Cubs are favored over the Padres. The Yankees favored over the Red Sox. What a classic. And the Dodgers, who are sending Snell to the mound against Green, are favored against the Reds. Thursday night football this week, the Rams are 5.5-point favorites against the 49ers. And WNBA Game 5 for who's going to the finals. The Aces are a 7.5-point favorite against the Indiana Fever. And now the Phoenix Mercury are the odds-on favorite to win the WNBA championship. NBA lines are all there for you, too. They have opening night. You can jump aboard it if you want. The Jazz line is already out, but that would be a long time to get your first bet. That's all at FanDuel.com. Oops. So I was able to thank you, by the way, for making Locked On the number one sports podcast network in the country. Greatly appreciate you doing that and all your support. So I actually got to close the day with 12 minutes with Ace Bailey yesterday. Before I had seen Ace Bailey, he had already won the day to the media. Like if you happened to be on X yesterday and you were on Jazz X yesterday and you were Tim Lacombe, Ben Anderson, all with a very similar tweets about Ace Bailey at some point in time. The guys that, from our show and everything else. It's going to be heavily dependent on what he does on the floor, typed Ben Anderson, but what his natural emotional spark, Ace Bailey has a chance to completely take Utah by storm. His energy, enthusiasm are so unique, truly one of a kind. Tim Lacombe, I think, said the exact same type of thing. It was a constant in everyone's reaction to Ace Bailey yesterday. Jazz Nation tweeted, "I'm even a bigger fan of Ace Bailey. He's all smiles during his media day, provided good, quick answers, stay positive, happy the entire time. I really love his attitude as we head into the season." That's who this kid is. This kid is a happy, energetic, million-mile-an-hour whirlwind of juice out there for all Jazz fans to embrace and love, and he's going to have to learn how to manage it and do all these things with it, but it is absolutely terrific. I spoke with him for 12 minutes. He's so kind of quick, and his energy is such that truly it felt like longer. I learned a lot. So I learned, to give you some background on him, Ace Bailey grows up in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And at age 14, it's clear he's been seen some places. I think it probably was the Peachtree AAU game. At 10, he had played Brandon Miller and the Thompson twins. And so he was on the circuit. He's kind of known. But there are, as he says, there's no cameras, there's no TVs, there's no publicity, there's nothing in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And so he and a coach at 14 years old leave his house, leave mom, and head to Atlanta, Georgia, to play in a better league at the legendary McCarran High School. McCarran High School is it's in the Cobb County School District in Georgia. It's probably, I don't know if I could but like it's Atlanta suburby from there would be the way I would say it kind of to you. Downtown Atlanta is, I think it's a little bit southeast of McCarran. It's out near Marietta, if you know that area. So it's probably, I mean, I'd say it's a 20-minute drive, but in Atlanta, that could probably be 45 minutes. So it's kind of this, it's got all these big names, somewhat legendary high school. And at 14, he goes. And he says, yeah, I was really lonely. And he's a basketball player at that point. So here's a 19-year-old kid who's now in the NBA. And at 14 years old, he's pretty much a basketball player. He goes with his coach. He doesn't do prom or any of those kind of things until his senior year. He finally goes to prom. He actually decides not to go to the Jordan Brand classic basketball game because he goes to his first ever prom. It's kind of cool. And does that and says it was, he's not a really big party goer, social goer, but he wanted to at least be a kid. Talking to him, I definitely presented the idea that he didn't get to be a kid as I talked with him and interviewed him and chatted with him. Certainly an interview, but kind of a low-key setting. And he somewhat agreed. Now, that's how I presented it, so let me make sure that that's clear. It doesn't mean he's not fun or doesn't enjoy himself, but this is a kid who very clearly was set up for this day, today. First day of training camp, NBA, here we go. The excitement is real. The energy is real. He does everything fast. Everything. He has a great energy to him. His answers are quick. His brain is working at a high level, quick communication. He's not stumbling for answers. It's interesting. Like you did not leave. I've left some of these interviews with some of our young players and been like, oh dear, like not fully prepared for the moment mentally or, I think a lot of this is schooling, so I don't want to say intelligence. I think intelligence is a weird word. So you can feel sometimes where people have not been prepared either in their upbringing or their schooling. I didn't feel that way at all with Ace. In the house he grew up in, the only thing on the wall was his mom's West Virginia basketball jersey. So his mom was a very good basketball player at West Virginia, Ramika McGee. His dad played at the college basketball at Houston, and as you may know, his aunt played in the WNBA. I might have called her games, actually. I got to go back and look. And he was a member of the 96 Olympic team. But his mom's West Virginia jersey was the one thing up on the wall as a kid. When I ask him a lot of questions about how he's going to get to where he wants to, his goals are ambitious. All NBA within 5 years, he wants to have been rookie of the year. He wants to be all NBA. He wants to be an all-star. Like he really believes. And I think that's fine. It's a little unnerving because the league is so hard. When I asked him like, hey, Kevin Durant only did this and LeBron only did this in your career, like what's your, like how, how do you deal with struggle, sacrifice, and hard work? That was his set answer on kind of any question I asked him about his career, his progression, how he does things, what he perceives himself to be. It was sacrifice and hard work, which is great. I mean, that's, again, let's just let the kid be 19. That was Will Hardy's big point, is like, let's not have Ace Bailey feel as though he has to live up to all of his expectations on the opening day and every day he's on the court. But he has a special energy to him. It's youthful. Like and it's endearing. And I think I've used the word effervescent on purpose. It is at times 11, not 28, right? Like you'll meet with somebody and you can say they have an old soul. I would say that Ace Bailey has a young soul when you're with him. Here was an interesting conversation I had with him. I added two last parts of our conversation. One was, and these are two theories I had, and so I had time with him and I asked him, and they're probably a little deep for our opening conversation that he and I have ever had. But frankly, like the conversation moves so quickly that we're 12 minutes in and I'm kind of at the end of my like list of things to talk about. The one I talked to him about was social media. I think it'll be interesting to watch these kids who have grown up with social media their whole lives getting into the NBA. Right? As someone is, if you're my age or 10 years younger in Utah or 15 years younger in Utah, you raise kids who are 20 years old now and not quite 10 years younger, probably. And we had to raise our kids through the social media rise without any idea of what to do as parents. We had just zero idea. So these kids who are now coming into the NBA, their whole entire life, they've had this. They've had an iPad since they were 3. They've had this their entire life. I think they might have better control of it than the previous generations who came in the league without it and had gained it and didn't. These kids all know the negatives of it well better than maybe the previous. So I talked to him about that a little bit. This was interesting. He's a talker, not a texter. So he'll pick up the phone and call you to talk to you, not text you, which I really love. It's an interesting concept. I like it because I'm old. The second one was interesting is I talked to him about the fact that he's already been paid. I think these kids will be really interesting in the NBA because they've already been paid. So they're nil money. He already has, I'm assuming, a few $1 million in the bank. Now he gets his first paycheck of, checks this year. And, I'm going to guess his checks are probably, I don't know exactly what's getting paid, but his checks are literally going to be $250,000 every time he gets a check. I don't think that's going to bother him the way it bothered a bunch of kids in the years past, right? Like, and I've seen it. I've been with these kids. I've been around for a long time. Ace Bailey's actually making $10 million this year, or $9 million. So his checks are going to be $400,000 every time he gets a check. I don't think that's going to, it's a lot. Don't misunderstand. And the $9 million, if he has $2 or $3 million in his bank from what his nil deal was, then that's one thing. But, and by the way, his reported nil deals is 1.6. I have no idea. But he has $1 million in the bank. So it's going to be a lot more money, but I don't know that it's going to be stunning the way it was. And he did talk about, he's already got a financial advisor. He's already got this. He's already got that. A lot of kids are doing that as they enter the NBA. He is not. So that's pretty cool. All right. There was one other major takeaway and two players that impressed me a great deal. And then we've got just a ton of notes all week long on this. So I will try to get to it. But as I expected, there was just so much to talk about today. And so much fun to talk about today that we're kind of running a little bit behind. So we'll get to my biggest takeaway of the day did not involve Ace Bailey and did not involve Walker Kessler. And it's next on Locked On Jazz. Today's show is brought to you in part by our friends over at Monarch Money. Right now, use the code LOCKEDONNBA and get 50% off your first year at Monarch Money. Why Monarch Money? Well, Monarch Money helps you basically as your personal CFO. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop, desktop, or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives, and if you're putting together organizing your finances, putting it off a little bit, Monarch is there for it. Actually, it's not if you're putting it off. Honestly, for me, it was actually putting it together. we need, as I shared with you guys, we needed to do some things. We have a bunch of different things. And like, I needed to be able to isolate where expenses were coming from and do it some way that wasn't just my own Excel spreadsheet. Monarch did all the heavy lifting for me. You can link all your accounts in a minute, see clear data visualizations, get smart categorizations for your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. It's pretty great. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Take advantage of their technology to make it easier for you. Use the code LOCKEDONMBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONNBA. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA. Thanks so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day, and thank you for making us the #1 sports podcast network. All right. My biggest takeaway is that there's a real camaraderie on this team. I'm going to make a leap here, but I think the exit of Colin Sexton, John Collins, and Jordan Clarkson is allowing, those are 3 big personalities. So if Colin Sexton is around, he is the largest personality in the room every single time. And if John Collins is in the room, he's the largest personality in the room, unless maybe Colin Sexton's in the room. And they're all going to take a backseat if the cool dude Jordan Clarkson walks in. That's the reality of what it's been like. Not bad. Nothing negative to Colin, John, or Jordan on that. But very clear to me that the departure of those 3 has left an oxygen gap in the locker room, and Keyonte George and the young players have jumped into it willingly and excitingly to take that oxygen and that air and move themselves into that role on this team. The big news was that Keyonte took almost a huge group of players down to Dallas for a trip. You'll hear about this if it wasn't written about today. I did not read what was written today by any of the great writers who cover the team because I did not want to be influenced and have my takeaways to them. But it was clear to me, particularly talking to Keyonte, and then actually I thought Lowry revealed it a little bit, that Lowry came back, went in the locker room, and the locker room was just had a juice and an energy and a youthfulness to it. He's like, they're all kids. But Lowry had been gone. He'd been in Europe playing Eurobasket for Finland, and he comes back, and they've been together all summer long, and they've established this locker room and this energy. And this is what Austin Ainge talked about in his opening press conference when he said, what players want is they want to play to win, and they want to have hope. And what these guys are building together is a level of togetherness, camaraderie, and hope. This is where Will Hardy talks about having an authentic team this year. And that jumped out to me. No one said anything negative about Colin, Jordan, or John in any way. But the unspoken comments, and it wasn't until late in the day that I finally asked somebody about their departure and what it means. Because I suddenly realized, talking to these guys, this is what's happening today, is that these guys are establishing this team and this group and their own personalities and putting it on this group in a way that didn't exist before. It's evident in the way they're all reacting to Taylor Hendricks. Taylor openly admitted he almost cried at the end of his first workout, and Keyonte said he cried when Taylor took the floor for the first time. There's a camaraderie amongst this group. And Walt Clayton is the oldest of the group, but the newest, but I think has melded into that group. And Ace is hanging with John Tanji and some of the other guys who are older, and they're helping him out and talking about furniture and this and that and how to do things, because Ace is just so young and so energetic. And so they all have their role, but Keyonte and Bryce, and I think even Kyle a little bit, even though he's second year, are being asked to explain and lead, and it gives them an ownership of what's taking place. Keyonte had an ownership of this team yesterday that I had not felt before. He couldn't have had it. It's where moving Colin, Jordan, and John Collins is important and maybe timed right, because I'm not sure that these guys could have done this earlier. As much as we all feel as though we've been sitting in a quagmire of quicksand and just sitting still in a mud bog for the last 2 years, there is maybe the thought I also had, you can decide what you think of this, that there was that this could not have happened earlier. Keyonte certainly wouldn't have led a group to Dallas last offseason and hosted them and taken them to a concert and had a football day and had gyms set up and all these other things for them to go play and get a run in and do these things together. It wouldn't have been on his radar to do that, nor would have he been capable, nor would have he had the juice, nor would have he had the authority, nor would have they followed. But they did. And now there's a group and there's an energy. There's a collective energy to everyone that they're in this together. Will Hardy's message to him is no savior is coming. Let's go. And then competency over credentials is Will's two big messages to these guys this year. And there is just there's a team juice to it, which is interesting. All right. I have a ton more. I could do 3 more shows today, but we have all week. My 2 big winners, the guys I left most impressed by, winners is the wrong word. I was most impressed by Flip and Bryce. I'll share that with you tomorrow. I was blown away by the veterans. I don't know how this is entirely going to work with Kevin Love, Kyle Anderson, Yusuf Nurkic, and George Niang. And it will be interesting because that locker room camaraderie that I just talked about has been built. And now 4 older statesmen are wandering into it with a lot of juice. Kyle Anderson's got a resume. Kevin Love is going to the Hall of Fame. Yusuf Nurkic is really good. George Niang is a big personality, and he kind of knows he has to play it back a tiny bit, but it's going to be interesting. They're wonderful dudes, but how do they mix in? We'll talk about that. Ton of notes. A really interesting thing on Isaiah Collier with an injury last year that he'll have to deal with this year. Will Hardy with some comments about defense. Keyonte with his different approaches. Some comments about Walt. Weight up, weight down. It's all this week. We'll be doing it all week long. Opening day of training camps today. That has been Locked on Jazz. Hopefully making it better to be a Jazz fan today. Tell your friends about the show because you don't want to walk around the office and have to talk Jazz all year with a bunch of idiots. Hopefully we make you a little smarter every day, and so you want them to be here and joining the show so you have good friends to talk to. This has been Locked on Jazz. We send you now to the first ever 24/7 national NBA channel, Locked on NBA on YouTube. Plus, check out Locked on NBA every day with Wes, Hayes, and Matt.